Hello again. In this lesson, we will see how we can use more complex workflows. I'm going to start by creating a box. And I'm going to also create a cube. I'm going to convert to a polygon. And I'm going to orient it along the x-axis. So as we can see here, I'm going to lengthen it a bit and reduce the scale to about 0.5. The box itself, I'll convert it to a polygon mesh and increase the uniform scale to 2. So it's a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these two objects into one slightly more complex looking shape. So I'll add a transform node to the tube and I will shift it in X. So it's about right here, just over where the cube itself would be, so you can see how it intersects the cube. What I'll do is I'm going to boolean them together and create a brand new shape out of both of those. So I'm going to drop in the boolean node. I'm going to put the cube in the box on the left and the transform on the right. And then by default, the operation is set to subtract. What I want to set it up to is a union. That's going to create this shape. Looks like a funky looking lollipop or Thor's hammer or something. What I will do also in the tube is I'm going to cap the end. So I'm going to go back to the tube option and click on end caps. Okay, so we do have in here a shape that looks like that. Now, what I want to do is separate each one of these objects, even though they're now one. I want to give them their own unique UV set. To make it actually even more interesting, I'm going to also add a couple more rows on the cube. Okay, so you can see a little bit more complexity. So the first thing I'll do is I'll drop a group node. And I'm going to name this first group the tube UV. And what I want to do is select all the primitives that belong to the tube. So I'm going to click on the arrow that's to the right of the base group. Go to my viewport, press enter. And select all of the primitives that you see in here. Actually, what I'm going to deselect is the end cap. So by pressing Control, I deselected that end. So once I'm happy with it, I'm going to press enter, and you'll see that it selected all the primitives that make up the cylinder. So that's our first group. I'm going to drop another group. And this one I will use to select the box and the end cap. So with this group selected, click here and select all the faces that make up the box. And you can see that I'm holding the Shift key to add these points. That one too, and this one. And again, when I'm done, I'm going to press enter, and it will have added all these points into my second group, which I'm going to name box UV. can see here. Now, I'm going to drop in a UV project node. Remember in the last lesson we covered that UV project can be really useful for some primitive shapes like the torus. So there's actually a UV project node that we're going to use only for this cylinder, and I'll show you how that works. So go back here and UV project, connect it to our box UV group. And now in the UV project, I want to apply it only to the cylindrical part of the shape. So if you go under group and you click on the drop down, you're going to see the two groups that we've created. So I'm going to select the tube UV group and going to go to initialize, set to best plane and click on initialize. And if you select the node and press enter, you're going to see the UV. Now, the one thing obviously that we didn't do is we didn't specify what kind of projection we want. So I just clicked initialize and it was under orthographic. So it gave me this square, which is not exactly what we want. What I want is a cylindrical projection. So under projection, select cylindrical, and now you're going to see the shape. Again, this will happen. Sometimes you'll forget the order like I just did right now, which is completely okay. And you can go back and re-click initialize, and there we go. So it fixed the UV setup on our cylindrical part of the shape. Now, if you want to see the actual UVs, again, I'm going to split the screen into two. So go here and two views side by side. I can press Ctrl 2. This one I'm going to make it my press escape. This one is going to be my perspective, and this one I'm going to press 5 is going to be my UV. And for some reason I jumped all the way up. There we go. Go down. And again, this UV project is currently set to the tube UV. For the square, we're going to go and use the UV flatten like we did in the very first lesson in this tutorial. So I'm going to press tab, type UV flatten. And for this, I'm going to select under the group the box UV because I don't want it to affect my cylinders. So click on box UVs, and you will see in here that it selected the actual box, and you can see that it has a slightly odd shape because of all the faces in it, as well as the cap, because we use that together. So with UV flatten selected, press enter. Make sure that you are in cut seams mode, or if you right click, it's the exclamation key. And we'll do the exact same thing as we did last time. So I'm going to just cut across these edges. Now, if you recall, if you want to go across a few of them, you can always press A and middle click, and it will, supposed to, every time you try to make some kind of tutorial, it always turns against you, which is part of the job. So I've learned to accept that, and it's all good. So there we go. So I created an outline just like we did before. It's in a T-shaped. When I'm done, I'm going to click on repack, so it fits it all inside the 0 to 1 space. And when I'm done, I'm going to press escape. So here we go. We have the box itself with a hole cut out for the end cap, and we also have the cylinder. Now, as you can see in this image, the UV, both of them are overlapping, which is not something that you want. So a really useful tool that you can use is called UV layout. And this is a really powerful node that will help you lay out your UVs in a really useful configuration. It has a whole bunch of cool effects, and basically what it does is almost magic. It's crazy how good this node is. So if you just enable it and display it, you'll see that it automatically took the cylindrical UVs and took the ones from the cube and laid them out like that. Now, one thing that's really important for you to set up is you want to make sure that the UVs are scaling properly. And what I mean by that is I'm going to drop a UV quick shade so you can see. You'll notice that some of the UVs are larger, some of them are tighter together. The one over here for the cylinder cap it's small, so you can see. That means that whenever you see bigger grids, that means that the resolution is less. So ideally, you want to make all of it as equal as possible, so to maintain the same kind of density amongst your UVs. And one useful tool that the UV layout has is this tab, which says scale islands to match the surface areas. So if you click on that, you'll notice that the square has now increased in size, while the cylinder has decreased in terms of the UV space that they take. But when you're looking at it, all elements are sharing pretty much the same UV ratio of one another. It's keeping everything pretty consistent across the board, so that will mean that whenever you go next and you start creating textures for your shapes, you're not going to have textures that are going to be potentially pixelated, or some are going to be at higher resolution. You will try to keep everything at the same size and ratio. So that's a really useful way of doing that. Simply make sure that you check this scale islands to match your surface areas right here. And that's it. So once you know how to combine basically multiple UV tools, and just like we did in the first lesson where we also used the UV edit, you're definitely on your way to be able to take more complicated shapes and then start cutting them and laying them out in more useful manners, so then you can export them to programs like Photoshop or Substance Painter, and you'll have a pretty good set of UVs in place. So that's it for this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.